Good morning for kxly-plus. I'm Rob King. We're doing something a little different this morning as part of our station's special reporting project on the social media effect. I'm going to be speaking with 4 News Now's Derek Deis regarding his special report that aired this morning, and you can watch on kxly.com. Let me go ahead and bring in Derek. Derek, how you doing?
Hello. Good morning. How are you?
Good, good. How do you feel your special report went?
Actually, pretty good. I guess we'll monitor the responses that we see, online as they come in. But anytime you do a story of this magnitude, I think this is something that's so important for so many parents and families right now that you kind of feel that little weight, right, to kind of give it the right. Just do it justice, really. So for this story, the social media effect, basically looking into how overuse of social media is affecting our kids and what we as parents can do about it. We talked to Dr. Michael Gurian, who is a renowned Spokane therapist and author of several books. He speaks all over the country, so he's a great authority to have on this topic. We talked to 2 high school counselors to see just kind of what are they seeing in schools right now with kids and social media and how it's affecting them, especially coming back from COVID isolation not too long ago. And then we're going to talk to parents as well. So we actually solicited some responses from parents to say, hey, are you guys seeing this sort of problem? What are you doing about it? And so we did talk to a Spokane mom of 2 daughters about her own experience with her daughters as well, and then put it all together in the story that aired this morning.
Got it. And Derek, you're a parent yourself. You must have some personal insight to this.
Yeah, our kids are 14 and 11, 2 boys, right? And so our older son, we gave him an iPhone when he turned 10 because the kids were at home alone. My wife and I both work here at 4 News Now, and so we needed a way to be in touch with them without having a landline, but we didn't allow social media at the time. And now our older son has turned 14. He's in 8th grade, so this is the first school year where we've allowed him to be, on things like TikTok and Instagram. The younger one has a smartphone now. Again, he's 11, but is not allowed on social media. And I just think like all parents need to consider parameters they're going to set for their kids, because the power that you give a young person in a phone like this is just immeasurable, right? I mean, they can access all kinds of information, and a lot of things they're just not ready for at a young age. That's why Dr. Gurian, and we'll get into this, I'm sure, says, please, parents, don't give your kids access to social media until at least 14 or 15. And in some cases, even 16 might be a better number. But even he says at 16, there's still risk.
So is that just because of where they're at in development as far as like their brains and being able to handle things like this?
Yeah, Dr. Gurian said that's really the CDC's recommendation is at least 14 or 15. And he talked about comparing social media overuse to like a nicotine addiction because of all the dopamine that it releases in the brain, right? If you're on social media and you're checking your Instagram posts and you're waiting for those likes to roll in, it's a flood of dopamine into your brain. And if you're on it, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, whatever, you can be experiencing that flood of dopamine 20, 100, maybe even 500 times a day. And he talked about it in the story that this is not only negatively affecting your normal brain development, it actually rewires your brain to a not normal method of development that can really, really mess with kids.
So that would almost create even long-term impacts of this, not just the impacts of the time you're on your phone, but it could change over time.
Yeah, and that's why we started the whole story talking with the quote from Dr. Gurian that says, I would put overuse of social media as one of the primary dangers of teen and tween life right now. And then, he says it's the rewiring of the brain is why he believes we're seeing so much depression, anxiety, and other issues. I mean, we're talking as serious as suicidal ideations and often suicidal acts in teenagers. It's not uncommon.
Now, Derek, we're going through this. I mean, just kind of existing, you and I have an idea of the impacts of social media, but what was one of the biggest surprises that you took away from it?
The Shadle Park High School counselors talked about if you have any interest in any topic, let's say gosh, I think I want to lose weight. Maybe I would like to be skinny like these models that I'm seeing in Instagram. I should be anorexic. They said, you can go on TikTok and you can find pro-ana groups, ana for short for anorexia, and find, here's how you do it, right? I mean, again, that's the thing that we parents don't think about is at their fingertips when we give kids a smartphone. They can find things about how to buy drugs here locally. You can go on Snapchat and there are drug dealers with complete menus of drugs you can buy for them. And hey, I'll meet you at X location. Your parents don't have to know, right? And then, or they'll even deliver it to your house in some cases. Things about like illegal weapons purchases, stuff like that. The Shadle Park counselors, and then what we just mentioned, the suicidal stuff. One of the counselors we talked to said that North Central High School lost 4 kids to suicide in a 13-month period. That is serious, serious stuff.
Now, Derek, due to being on TV, there are time constraints for your package. Was there anything you wanted to include in it that just wasn't able to make it this time?
Yeah, there's a ton because me and my natural curiosity, I ask too many questions anytime I do a story. So I actually have like probably 13 pages of transcribed interviews here. And so you just can't get it all on. Thankfully, we actually put a few like longer form videos on our YouTube page. And I believe we're going to be attaching them to the story on kxly.com with just like longer answers from each of these experts on these topics, right? About Dr. Gurian talked a whole bunch about how to check to see if your child is having trouble with overuse of social media. He said there are 3 main things. One is cognitive. So like, are they not doing well with their schoolwork or are they falling behind in school? 2 is relational, and by that he means this in a social, emotional way. So are they only relating through a screen, or if their real relationships in real life are starting to deteriorate or disintegrate, right, with between you and the parents, with them and their friends. And then physical, maybe if your child is getting obese, it's because he's spending too much time, he or she, I should say, on those screens, not getting outside and playing enough, or participating in sports and that sort of thing. And he also talked about some rules for digital hygiene, which he thinks parents should consider. 1 is no devices for an hour before bedtime, right? You've heard that. That's a recommendation for adults,
sure,
not kids as well. 2, no devices at the dinner table or during designated family times, and that applies to the parents as well. You got to put them away so that you can relate to each other in a real sense instead of through screens. And then no overuse of devices in a car. So like if you're going on a long car ride, maybe you don't have your phones out for the first half hour so you can talk about how your day's gone, and then you can put on the movie if you're going, just say, across the mountains of Seattle and you know it's going to be a 4 or 5 hour trip. Stuff like that. Also just, maybe there's a lot of parents that do this too, where like they say, you can have your phone on a school night, right? But by 10 o'clock when it's time for bedtime, your phone goes, let's say, in the parents' bedroom, and then you don't get it back until the morning. That way, I know you're not scrolling through TikTok until 2 a.m. on a school night, and then you're putting yourself in bad shape for the next school.
So it sounds like what we keep coming back to is having to set a structure, set boundaries and rules, and that's going to be one of the best ways in order to kind of prevent some of these more negative impacts of social media addiction.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because both the high school counselors and Dr. Gurian, the therapist, were very adamant, and they said, listen, you own these phones. Your kids don't own these phones. There's no reason that you think that their privacy over what's on their phone should trump you as a parent keeping your child's safety in mind. And the high school counselor said, they're not even talking about taking them for weeks at a time, right? If you get in trouble or they find that maybe your 13-year-old is surfing pornography on the internet or something like that, right? It's more just like, hey, you need to have some time during the day where you're not on your phone. So at the dinner table, phones go away for 30 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. Or if you're watching a family movie, we're all going to put our phone away and watch the movie, and we're not just sitting here on our screens. Yes, I'm peeking and watching the movie, but also I'm doing this sort of thing, right?
I'm guilty of it.
Yeah, Dr. Gurian even said, like, if you do get to the point where you have to take your phone away from your kid, yes, they will be angry with you, probably for a few weeks, but over time, he believes they might actually thank you for it because they'll notice that the quality of their life is getting better. And the mom we talked to, Jill Royston, said when her daughters first got on social media, her older one handled it fairly well, but the younger one realized it was having an effect on her mental health to the point where she didn't even want to go to school sometimes. And she said there were times where she'd say, Mom, here, take it. Please take my phone. Like, I can't do this right now, because she was seeing things she wasn't ready for, whether that was just her friends talking about what a great time they were having over here when it's something she wasn't invited to, right? Or seeing images of people that seemed like perfection and was having a hard time feeling like she couldn't live up to that image. That's really hard for somebody who's 11, 12, 13, right? Let alone 14, 15 to handle. So these are the kind of things that I think all these parents, we need to be thinking about, even if our heads aren't in that space yet.
Got it. And I guess if we're to take a silver lining from that, it's that the child was able to recognize some of the negative aspects of this and go, I need to remove myself from it.
Right. And in fact, she said both of her daughters, yes, they are still on social media, but they have learned, because of those negative effects, that it's not a good idea for them to be on it all the time. So I'll use it sparingly. I want to check in, see what's happening, sort of thing. But they're at least trying, right? Not to spend hours and hours a day, because look, there are for sure kids in our area and all over the country who are scrolling social media 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, right? I mean, that's actually happening. And you can think about it, like if you're running through TikTok and you're just zipping through video and video and video, or you're constantly snapping with your friends on Snapchat, like there's some real negative implications from that, from just not only what you're seeing, right, but also just that we talked about with not being able to relate to people in person because you're only relating to people through screens.
Sure. And I know this time around, the special reporting project that we're doing is focusing mainly on kids, but we know adults who are just as guilty, and they're supposed to be the ones setting the boundary. But I'm sure you've seen at a restaurant, as I've seen, where every member of the family is on a device of some kind. And so I think we have to put ourselves in that position and understand that we can be just as guilty of it.
No doubt. I mean, that's why I think parents can watch this story and still recognize, oh, hey, yeah, we're talking about kids, but this can certainly apply to me too. Rob, I'm embarrassed every week when my iPhone tells me the amount of time I spend per day, right? I mean, it's usually over 5 hours a day. I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing for 5 hours a day staring at this screen on my phone? That's ridiculous. Why is it so high? And obviously we're watching Netflix and stuff like that too, but like that's still an insanely high number for the amount of hours a day that
when you think you're only awake 16 hours.
yeah. So I think there's lessons in this story for all of us, for sure.
Definitely. Well, Derek, I want to thank you for hopping on, getting a little more insight into what you've been working very hard on. Again, if you want to watch Derek's special report, you can go to kxly.com, and some of those longer form videos will be posted up there attached to that article in just a moment, now that our digital producer has come in this morning. Derek, anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. I really hope that parents will take the time to watch this and watch it with your kids, hopefully, right? And then take something away from it, that you need to set some sort of parameters if your kids are, let's say, 16 or, well, really 18 or younger, right? If they're under your house and you're paying for that phone, you got to set some sort of parameters just to make sure that you're keeping your kids' health and safety in mind.
Absolutely. Derek Deis, thank you. Appreciate you.
You bet, man.
Right.
Thank you.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye. And thank you, Derek, for hopping on with me, talking about this important issue. Tonight, I will be hosting a live Q&A, and I want your participation. I'll be speaking with a couple experts, including a professor from Washington State and a local family therapist, about some of the issues that we've been discussing today, and we can go in further depth tonight. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can reach me at email, rking@kxly.com, or we have a Facebook post up right now where you can comment your question underneath it. You can also watch all these sort of long form streams that we do, KXLY Plus on your Apple TV and Roku, or the 4 News Now app for your mobile devices. So again, coming up tonight at 7:30, I will have a live Q&A with experts on this topic. But for now, live in the Digital News Center, I'm Rob King for KXLY Plus.